Hi, I'm Brandon Mahogany. I'm an independent financial advisor, and I wanted to address an area of retirement planning that I frequently run into with clients. In this video, I'll be discussing the pros and cons of rolling over your 401k into an individual retirement account, also known as an IRA. You'll likely face this decision at one or two different points in your life. One, when you retire and now need this money to pay for your expenses during retirement, or when you leave an employer to go work somewhere else. At that point, you'll have to decide if you should leave your retirement savings in your old 401k or roll it over into an IRA. It can often be more beneficial to roll it over, but not always. Whether or not you should roll over your 401k will depend on your particular facts and circumstances. While this video specifically addresses 401ks, the rollover pros and cons discussed here are pretty much the same to other types of employer-sponsored plans, like 403bs. 457bs have a little different rules. For the sake of this video, the focus will primarily be on 401ks because that's the most common type of plan I run into. And before we get started, I just want you to remember that this video is only general explanations and education. It is not specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Before considering acting on anything you see in this video, first consult with your tax, legal, or investment advisor. So I want to start out by highlighting 5 pros and cons of rolling over your 401k into an IRA. So starting out with the pros, the first rollover pro is having significantly more investment options right out the gate. Many 401k plans limit their range of investments to only a few dozen choices. Typically, I'll see a handful of mutual funds and maybe some company stock if your employer is publicly traded. And in a 403b, your options may be limited to only certain types of annuities. While annuities aren't inherently bad, they aren't often the best choice, especially if your investment objective is growth. This is because annuities are first and foremost insurance products to provide safety and stable streams of income. Investment growth is at best their secondary objective. If you roll money into an IRA, you can invest in almost anything. The IRS allows IRAs to hold pretty much anything except for collectibles and life insurance. Practically speaking, many brokers and IRA custodians put in place stricter limitations than those imposed by the IRS. In addition to cash, most custodians will only allow you to hold traditional tradable investments like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. If you aren't sure what a custodian even is, think of Fidelity, Schwab, and Vanguard as examples. There's many more, but those 3 are the ones that I see the most often. Some custodians may even allow your IRA to hold real estate or alternative investments like hedge funds. These investments can sometimes be considered to be higher risk, so some custodians don't allow them to be held within their IRAs. The second rollover pro is better access to working with a financial advisor. Most advisors don't have a way to directly deduct their advisory fees from 401k accounts, and because they may not have a feasible means of getting paid for their services, they won't be able to work with you. If all your investments are inside of a 401k, there are a few exceptions to this. For example, if your 401k is administered by one of the large full-service brokerage or mutual fund companies, there's a good chance that they have their own in-house advisors. However, such advisors typically provide only very limited advisory and financial planning assistance. If you want or need someone who offers more comprehensive services, you'll likely need to find an advisor external to your 401k plan. If you instead roll your account into an IRA, virtually all advisors have the ability to be compensated from that account, which means you'll be much more likely to find an advisor who will be able to work with you. Now, keep in mind, if you do roll over your 401k to an IRA and start working with an advisor through that IRA, you'll obviously have to pay for his or her services. But those fees are not directly an expense of rolling over your account. They're separate costs of getting professional financial advice. So those fees shouldn't be confused as a cost or expense of doing a roll in and of itself. The third rollover pro is lower account fees. There are costs associated with administering employer-sponsored retirement plans like 401ks. Those costs are typically passed on to you, the plan participant, in the form of general administrative fees, account maintenance charges, or increased investment fund fees. In an IRA, there's usually no such account charges and no fund fee add-ons. The fourth rollover benefit is less financial clutter. So if you've changed jobs a few times in your career and you have multiple old 401ks, this means that you have multiple account statements piling up in your mailbox and multiple website logins and passwords to keep track of. But more importantly, it means that there are multiple accounts from which required minimum distributions will need to be taken from. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, are minimum amounts of withdrawals the IRS requires you to take from your tax-deferred accounts each year. The Secure Act 2.0 raised the age you have to start taking RMDs to the year you turn 73 and every year thereafter. Each 401k has its own separate RMD that needs to be taken. So unfortunately, you cannot satisfy your RMD requirement from your various 401ks by just taking one big RMD from one of them. And you do not want to mess around with missing RMDs. For every dollar of RMD that you're supposed to take but don't, you'll have to pay an extra 25% penalty tax. Thanks to the Secure Act 2.0 back in 2022, the penalty for missing those RMDs has been reduced from 50% to 25%, but still 25% is just a ridiculous penalty to be paying when it can be totally avoided with proper planning. You can make your financial life much more streamlined by just rolling all of your accounts into one IRA. So not only will that mean just having one statement to follow and one login to remember, but it also means there will only be one account whose RMDs need to be tracked and taken from. The final rollover pro is the possibility of just having more account withdrawal options. Some 401ks limit the type and frequency of withdrawals that you can make. IRAs rarely have these limitations. And now for the cons of doing a 401k to IRA rollover. The first con is losing the ability to delay RMDs. So if you're still employed when money is in your 401k and you're still working at that employer, you normally don't need to take RMDs even if you're 73 or older. Not that you'll necessarily want to be working when you're 75 or 80, but if you are, you'll at least be able to delay RMDs from that 401k. If you roll over the money into an IRA, regardless of your employment status, you'll still need to start taking RMDs at age 73. And then the last rollover con is losing the ability to potentially take penalty-free account withdrawals between the ages of 55 and 59 and a half. If you're 55 or older and are laid off, retired, or otherwise separated from your employer, you can normally take penalty-free withdrawals from that 401k without having to wait until 59 and a half. If the money's moved to an IRA, unless one of a few special exceptions apply, you cannot withdraw money earlier than 59 and a half without incurring a 10% early withdrawal penalty. There are a couple more notes that I wanted to address that may not necessarily be considered pros or cons, but worth mentioning nonetheless. If you're aware of the creditor and lawsuit protections you have with your 401k, you may also be aware that those same protections are not granted to IRAs. However, previous 401k plans that are rolled into what's called a conduit IRA or rollover IRA, the same creditor and lawsuit protections still apply. If your 401k is rolled into a rollover IRA, then it still has the ability to be rolled back into a 401k in the future if that new 401k plan allows rollover IRA contributions to be rolled into it. I hope you found this information helpful. I'd like to make more general topic videos like these in the future. So if this one does well, or if I have another topic that I keep running into, I'll try to make more videos about it in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.